This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder with 7 drive modes. The Pathfinder is built for even the most epic journeys. Learn more at nissanusa.com.
Here we go.
Hey, Pashi.
Hey, Sufi.
How are you, my friend?
I'm great.
I feel like, I hope that's not weird for people to hear me say my friend, but I do also consider you a friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a lot of like Mackenzie keeps saying. She's like, I hate those people at their weddings who say, I'm marrying my best friend. And then she's like, but I feel like that.
But that's insane because I'm your best friend.
Okay.
So she could marry her best friend, but you can't marry your best friend.
She can't marry her best friend, then she won't be marrying me. Unless I am her best friend. So.
I think that's her point. I think it's true, but like we unfortunately have established on this podcast that I'm your best friend.
I don't like the term best friend. I'll say that.
Oh, great. Here we go. You know what I wish one of our sponsors was? A soapbox. And we could say, hey, it's time. Flenderson's Soapbox now sponsors. Go ahead. Why don't you like best friend?
What a dumb term. Because it makes you assign status to one of your friends. I've got a lot of friends. And you're my friend, you're my brother.
I'm going to jump in and say I do a thing that I don't like where I go, they're one of my best friends. Because, of course, best does not imply that there's a bunch of them.
Right. So you're wrong there.
I'm wrong there.
Yeah. And it's just
by the way, the longer this goes, you're no longer my best friend. I like ones that are a little bit less pedantic about the use of best friends.
Go around to all your friends who aren't number one and tell them who your best friend is, and then see what those other friends think about you. Mm-hmm. I just think it's a dumb term.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I even forget where this. Oh, good. You're getting married, and it seems like you're going to be a real catch. That's where we were. How some of our very good friends, Andrew Moskos and Saskia Moss, who started Boom Chicago, our theater in Amsterdam that we got our start at. They're in New York City, and when this is done, I'm going to go have lunch with them. Very excited about that.
Awesome.
I did one of my shows with John Oliver at the Beacon Theater in New York City last night. They came to that, which was a delight.
Nice.
And John and I each do an hour, and then we do about a half an hour of Q&A, and the very funny Brooks Whelan opens for us, and he does 20 minutes. So it is I feel cognizant of, my God, it's so lovely that people stay for this whole thing, right?
It's Killers of the Flower Moon.
It's Killers of the Flower Moon, yet without, act structure.
Right.
And my new stand-up is I do it all in Robert De Niro's Southern accent voice.
Oh, wow.
I'm very proud of Robert De Niro for pulling out late in the game. He was like, I'm going to do Oklahoma now.
I mean, he's got chops.
He does have chops. It's great. I like it.
Yeah.
It's my new, when I do De Niro now, I'm like, have you heard my De Niro? Hey, you listen to me. My new impression is I do the Oklahoma De Niro. So, but it's this, you'll know about Andrew Moskos, who's a straight shooter. Yeah. One of our dear friends, also a straight shooter. He came backstage, and I've always said to people after the show backstage, I'm like, it wasn't too long, was it? And they're always like, oh my God, no, it was, we were invested the whole time. And I said to Andrew, I'm like, did it feel too long to you? He's like, a little. I'm like, you're the best.
Yeah.
Somebody had to be the first one to say it's maybe a little too long, but a lovely night.
While you were hanging out with them, I was hanging out with their son, Finn, who is back out in California. He is Andrew and Saskia's son. He is definitely a Dutch kid, but his German grandmother lives in Santa Monica. And I had an improv show with some Boom Chicago alum, Susie Barrett, Jim Woods, James Kirkland, and Finn showed up. And it's so great to talk to Finn and realize that he has, like, his father, Andrew, is American, does not speaks the way Andrew speaks, but it's definitely an American accent. But then you ask Finn, you're like, well, what are you doing like these next couple of months? He's like, yeah, we're just sort of, going to be feeling it out. And I'm working at be a bartender at this like hip hop club for, a couple nights a week. And it's he could have sort of threaded it one way where he's like, I'm not going to have this Dutch accent, but he's so Dutch. It's so great, and
it's
everyone
cool.
loves him.
I think in LA, right? You want your Dutch American bartender to have that accent. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
That's a value added accent. This is one of my favorite stories about Finn, because the Moskoses and the Meyers for years would flip Thanksgivings. Either they would come from Amsterdam and spend it with us in New Hampshire, or our whole family would go to Amsterdam and we would do Thanksgiving there.
Real country mouse, city mouse style.
It was very nice. Finn, when he was little, he was about 2, maybe 3, as I'm thinking, but I'll say 2. He was at our house, and again, his mom, Saskia, only spoke to him in Dutch, and his dad, Andrew, only spoke to him in English, and that is the best way to be bilingual. But it became very clear that as a 2-year-old, he was mostly talking to his mom, because his Dutch was exceptional, and he only spoke a few words of English. And I remember one night, his mom was carrying him up to bed, and it was just a kid who didn't want to go to bed. And I apologize, Posh, you will know this isn't the real Dutch, but he was a mile a minute. He was like, "No, ik niet wil slapen, mama niet." And then he looked at us, and something in his head clicked, and he was looking at us over Saskia's shoulder, that we only spoke English, and that's why we weren't reacting. Mm-hmm. And so he went to the well for what he knew in English, and he just looked at us with an outstretched hand and said, "Help me!"
But he also knew, like, we were all laughing, and it wasn't a protest of like, I'm gonna cry. It was he was playing it up for comedy even at that young of an age.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember another time where he's older now, back in New Hampshire, and remember there was and now that I have kids, I realize, this sort of thing happens all the time, where they have a single-minded idea of what game they want to play, and they don't want any of your help, and they just want you to do it exactly the way they want to do it. And remember the year he wanted to play Seekers? It was a version of hide and seek, but he goes, "No, we will play Seekers now, and you will all hide." Because I think maybe he had a headlamp, or there was something he had that made in his head. He's like, "We're gonna play Seekers," and we're like, "What? Do you mean hide and seek?" He's like, "No, Seekers." And it was.
But he's all grown up now.
He's all grown up now. Another trip we took that actually just got a bit of a callback on our show. We went to Scotland one year.
Yeah.
Do you remember? A bunch of SNL people, you and Mackenzie, went to Scotland in August. It was probably 9 years ago. And we, the Kleins, Rob Klein and his wife, Lucy Madison, brought a game. Do you remember the game?
I do. This game has been shared around, and this
game is called, and I invite everyone who is listening, if you want to see how the game is played. Will Forte was recently on my show, and we played Under the Blanket. Under the Blanket is maybe the best party game you're ever going to play. And let's say you have 8 people. The classic way to play Under the Blanket is 4 people leave the room. That is their team. They pick one person to crawl back into the room under a blanket.
Big blanket, so you can't see your feet or anything.
You can't see anything. And they silently crawl in. And let me just tell you, this is the part you can't wrap your head around until you see it. Nothing's funnier than a person on all four, an adult on all fours under a blanket, slowly shuffling into a room.
Yeah.
That's kind of the most delightful part.
Yeah. It's also delightful because if you're the group that goes into the other room, if you're the group that stays in the living room, let's say, you just continue having a conversation. There's nothing for you to do in that moment. So the party doesn't stop or the gathering doesn't stop. And if you're in the kitchen, let's say, and part of the team who's putting someone under the blanket, it's fun to be like, who should go under? That little negotiation moment is fun. And anyhow, continue.
But then the person comes in, and obviously the key when you're under the blanket is to not make any noise, because that would give away your identity. Yeah. And so then the 4 people keep asking you to do things in hopes that they will hear something from you. Also, when you're under the blanket, there is something inherently funny about how hot it is and how dumb it is. And it is infectious. And so you're trying very hard, and they're like, shuffle to the right, shuffle to the left. Now, like, raise your butt in the air. And it's really, It is really just a delight.
Yeah. And then you don't take too long and you guess who it is. And then that person under the blanket reveals themselves and either you got it right or wrong and that's it. Then you swap. I played that years and years ago at a pre-hangout to a high school reunion at my friends Chris Dion and Jen Razza's house. And I was just back in Bedford, New Hampshire and went to a baseball game, a high school baseball game of a buddy's son. And Chris Dion was there and his young son who had been there is this is 5 years ago and his son's very young. And he was like, oh yeah, I remember you from Under the Blanket. And he's played it at sleepovers and things.
Yeah.
Also last night I was going to bed. Mackenzie got in late and I was trying to fall asleep because I had to get up very early this morning. And she comes out of the bathroom and said, do you know your brother played Under the Blanket on his show? And I was like, I'm trying to sleep. All the lights are out. She's talking to me at full volume. I've already told her, I got to get up so early, please.
It was new. It was breaking news. She knew that you'd want to see it right away.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful conversation. Our first married couple,
Ooh.
J.K. Simmons. Ooh. Probably best friends. They certainly seemed like it when we talked to them.
With J.K. Simmons and Michelle Schumaker?
Yeah, they seemed like besties.
Yeah?
It would be very funny if we interviewed a married couple on family trips and the takeaway was, it's not a going a well.
Well,
you will be able to hear over the course of the podcast that it is not a going a well. They were a delightful conversation. We do hope you enjoy it. But first, why don't you give a listen to Jeff Tweedy?
Family trips with the Meyers brothers. Family trips with the Meyers brothers. Here we go.
Hey!
Oh.
Look how cozy.
We're very excited because we've only had one other married couple on our podcast, and it was our parents. So
Wait a minute. We're not that old.
we have very high hopes that this will be less stressful.
For you.
For us, exactly.
Yeah.
You guys will be fine, but for us, this is already a lot
I will
easier.
say, you guys have worked together, and had our parents worked together, they would not still be together. So I think that says something about your longevity and dispositions.
Yeah. We met working together, so it's it's kind of come full circle.
So you met doing Peter Pan.
We did,
indeed. And this is a stage production of Peter Pan. Where was it?
It was I'm pretty sure the most recent Broadway revival with Kathy Rigby as Peter Pan. And it ran for quite a while. I joined about a year into it, and Michelle joined shortly after. We went on tour. We came back to Broadway. So it was, it was over a year for us. I was Captain Hook, and she was Tiger Lily.
So the Pirates and Indians got together on that one.
Yeah.
A good example.
How soon into the production did you guys think that you were going to spend the rest of your lives together?
I knew right away. It took a little while to figure it out.
No, I also knew right away, but yeah, it did take me a while to, I don't know, grow up. Peter Pan. It's a little
Exactly.
synchronicity there. Yeah. I was in my mid-30s by then, but just at the end of my Peter Pan syndrome.
And I was 24. I think I was 24.
She was, it's a little fatal robbing.
Well, guess what, JK? I'm going to let you off the hook here because I was 34 and my wife was 24 when we met. And I also was still Peter Panning it pretty hard. So, yeah. And I didn't even have the excuse of being in a production.
Yeah.
It works though.
I think that's, she is what cured me, actually. Yeah.
Of course, it does take, sometimes it takes the right person to solve that. And how old are your children now?
Joe's 25. He'll be 26 in November, and Olivia's 22.
Almost 23.
In July.
All right.
Yeah. She's graduating from Pace.
That's amazing. Now, I do want to ask something because we're going to ask about trips you guys took as kids, but because you've also been on trips as parents, do you guys feel when you went on family trips with your kids that you were a good team, or did you turn against one another?
Oh, no, there's been no turning against each other on family trips or really otherwise. I mean, I think the teamwork aspect has been, and of course, I've been the absent member of the team at times. So, a lot of times it's been a team of one, when I was on location or somewhere. But no, we haven't had any of the horrible meltdowns that you hear about. Or that I don't know. I didn't see the interview with your parents. Maybe.
Oh yeah, we had the opposite. If my dad just said word for word what you had said, I think Josh and I both would have just unplugged our headphones.
I was wondering, because I was playing golf. I'm home right now. This is my childhood bedroom. It didn't always look like this, but now this is what it's become.
Fantastic.
And we were playing golf, and I was wondering, at what point do you start to talk smack about your partner to your kids? Because both of my parents will now do it, but I feel like when we were little, there was very much a sort of a wall around, like, we're not going to, run down mom when we've got you in the car with dad. But now it's pretty regular. So I don't know if that's a situation that you have, or if it's still you're a united front.
We're kind of, I don't want to say boring, but in that way.
We love you.
And we've actually really gotten to the point now with these adult, kids where we can all give each other, a certain ration of crap, like with the four of us sitting around the table playing a family game, and call each other on our little idiosyncrasies and mostly have a sense of humor about it. Or sometimes, it gets deep, and then it's like, oh, wow, we were just having fun. And now it's like a family therapy session that we've initiated ourselves. And that's a beautiful thing too.
Which is really cool, because we'll be playing a game and then it branches off into just like really, really, like he was saying, deep stuff. But what's interesting about it is, as parents, now our adult children, right? You have to change the relationship, as you guys know, with your parents.
Yes.
It's no longer, you need to listen to me. You need to, you're equals, you're adults. And so it is interesting to, because they have stuff they want to talk about from the past and work out. And you have to kind of sit there and listen and not get, no, but I did the best I could. And, all that. And, I didn't ask to be born, all that stuff that you hear about. You just kind of have to go, okay, at the time, I thought that was the best decision, based on what I had. And, but they can go really deep sometimes. And it's cool because they trust that they can tell us anything. And there's been some stuff that's like, because I thought I was a perfect mom. Come to find out, I wasn't so perfect. But the fact that they trust that we love them unconditionally, they can tell us anything and talk about anything, and it's okay. In fact, it's good, right? Because you just keep clearing away, so you can keep having that positive, healthy, loving, boring, but great relationship. So, it's fun. It's fun, but also sometimes like, and then I got to go, sit in the bath and, I wasn't perfect. I didn't mean to scar, whatever.
We famously still play a lot of hearts as a family. It's because it's just Josh and I and our parents. And we're the opposite. I feel like we've never gotten deep during a card game. And sometimes my wife will say, what do you guys talk about during hearts? And I'll say, we talk about who made a bad move in the previous hand, and we ask them to focus up and not let it happen again in the next hand.
I mean, when those conversations really go there, it's like, it's such a generational thing, because our parents, my parents, God knows, knew nothing about my, love life or dating or, any of that. I mean, they were the last people on the planet I would talk to about any of that. And that's like, it's like our kids are talking to their friends when they talk to us about
That's good. That's a very good reflection on the kind of parents you are.
It took a little getting used to it.
Okay.
Like, oh, wow.
I guess that's the one thing you're not allowed to say to your kids is TMI. Like you do have to you have to take all the I they're willing to give you.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends with like teenage kids right now, and this sort of not explicit, but just how plainly they speak about sex is shocking to those parents, my friends, and to me. And it does seem like it's a generational thing that's become like, no, I'm going to talk to my parents about this because why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah. Although I will say, then if I start talking about sex,
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
oh my God.
We prefer if you don't. We prefer if you don't.
I'm like,
Yeah. Don't think you can unload it on us either.
you're telling me about your sex life, and I'm not allowed to tell you
Look,
about
there's plenty of podcasts for that, Michelle. This is not
They have
that.
paywalls and they're weirdos. Now we're going to take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors.
This episode of Family Trips is supported by the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder.
From muddy jungle paths to snowy trails to rolling sand dunes, the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder has the capability to take you to some of the most epic destinations on Earth.
And we're excited to once again partner with Nissan because, as our listeners know, this podcast, Family Trips, is occasionally a podcast about trips and about the joy of having adventures and exploring new places and making memories.
And there's no better vehicle for chasing bigger, better, and more exciting adventures than the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. With 7 drive modes, the Pathfinder is available. Intelligent 4-wheel drive is built for even the most epic journeys.
And it even has up to 6,000 pounds of towing capacity, so you can bring the fun with you.
But Nissan also knows that it's not just about where you go. In a Pathfinder, the real fun comes from getting there.
Very well said, Pashi. Whether getting there is a new physical place or just the end of an amazing story told by one of our guests.
That's why we're excited to partner with Nissan to celebrate adventurers everywhere.
So thanks again to Nissan for supporting Family Trips and for the reminder to chase bigger, better, more exciting adventures and enjoy the ride along the way. Learn more at nissanusa.com.
Intelligent 4-wheel drive cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions. Towing capacity varies by configuration. See Nissan Towing Guide and Owner's Manual for additional information. Always secure cargo.
Here we go.
What games do you guys play as a family?
It's, she'll have to remember some of the names because we've gotten so advanced. Mostly our son is the leader of
huge fan.
The game nerddom that we've
like
dove into.
Viticulture, Clank, Wingspan,
What was the one? We played one last
Vendetta's
night.
really fun. It's like they go from like, super simple, fun, just like there's a called Vendetta that Joe just found. They're mostly Euro games, but where you use your car, it's like a Mad Max Thunderdome, and we have
So,
go ahead.
I just remember the one we played last night, which the 3 of them had already played a couple times, and I learned last night. And they get so it's called Veil of Eternity.
Okay.
And I'm still not sure I know how to play it.
Well, you played it the first time. We played it many times before. But what's really fun is that we have actually like a Spotify, like a playlist for games.
Wow.
So like Clank will have The Hobbit, because it's you explore the like dungeons and then
gotta have the soundtrack.
for Vendetta, which is like just a basic slam. You slam into each other. It's like a Mad Max. We have Mad Max and the Thunderdome. We have that playlist. It's just
Great. I love it.
Those are elevated games.
My personal favorites are the co-op games where, all 4 of you or however many people are playing are working towards a common goal. It's like a hippie commune kind of mindset.
Have you played Crew? Have you guys played Crew?
The Crew.
Oh,
Dude, we played the
perfect
Crew last
example.
night.
We love Crew.
Maybe his favorite game.
And now there's a
online.
user-generated third version of the Crew that you can find.
Okay.
That's like even more difficult
Crazy.
and complicated.
Yeah.
And
I feel like people right now might be thinking this is a deep, like board game nerd stuff, but I'm also going to jump in because I sort of sometimes am.
Because you're a nerd
you're
too.
calling us nerds now?
No,
or-
I'm saying that I embrace the idea. Anybody who's got kids old enough to play, this Crew is a wonderful game. And
Great
I highly recommend it. I would have preferred, JK, if you jumped in and said, but my favorite games are like Hungry Hippos. If you've taken it way back, Operation's a lot of fun.
Fish. Yeah.
Well, his favorite games you said we couldn't talk about on this podcast. So.
Oh, right. Thank
Right. All right. Oh my
The
God.
whole
Stop.
parent sex thing again.
Stop alluding to it. Now,
Sorry.
where you guys both grew up in the Midwest? Is that an accurate description of your childhoods?
No, I did. She was born in the Midwest, but doesn't remember it.
Well,
Gotcha.
I was 6 months old when we moved to California. So.
Okay, gotcha. So you're California.
Yeah.
And JK, your parents were educators?
My dad was when we were little kids, he was a public school music teacher. And then when I was 10, we moved from Michigan to Ohio, and he was at the Ohio State University in the music department. And my mom was, while the three of us were growing up, she was the stay-at-home mom. And then once my younger brother went to kindergarten, she started her career of arts administration, and then in the business world after that, after they moved to Montana.
Montana, a place I think a lot of people would love to go for a vacation. Was it as idyllic as it sounds to live there?
It absolutely, yeah. My sister and I, who had both been away from home for a while, went out to, visit. And shortly after that, I went back to Columbus and loaded up a U-Haul truck, and we cruised across country. We were like, why would we not go to college here?
Yeah.
So all three of us ended up graduating from the University of Montana, where my dad was teaching.
That's amazing.
And we go back. I mean, one of our family trips that we do almost annually now is a road trip from usually from California up to Montana to my old summer theater area up on a big, beautiful lake up there.
Wow. And is that something you would do with the kids, that annual road trip?
Yeah. And we do with them still. We're going to do it again this August, and they're still humoring us by usually going on lots of family road trips with us.
How long a drive and how many days do you do it over?
It's varied somewhat. It's usually a 2-day thing because it's, like 1,100 plus miles. We've had some much more dramatic, lengthy road trips where we've, pedal to the metal. But we usually stop in Utah somewhere, spend the night, get a nice dinner, chill, play a little crew in the hotel room.
Yeah,
right.
That was not in Vegas, though.
And now in Vegas, because that's, another off the strip in Vegas. Another place that's kind of a little sort of getaway oasis for us. So Vegas to Flathead Lake is that's a pretty long schlep, but we've done that in one stretch.
I've stayed on Flathead Lake. It's great up by
East Shore or West?
I think the east. My fiance is an equestrian and competes in Kalispell. There's there's a big tournament up there, big show up there.
Which in the little town where I did summer theater, that was Kalispell was Dodge. We referred to that going into Dodge because that's the big city.
Yeah,
compared to where we were.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
When the four of you are in the car for a road trip, are you a family that listens? I'm going to guess based on the fact that you score your own board games, you listen to music when you're in the car.
Yeah. I mean, mostly the kids plug in, whether kids or adults, they plug in. Sometimes we'll play, Joe or Liv will put a comedy album on, album.
Yeah, that's very fun.
They'll put comedy on.
There's sometimes, I mean, a lot of times it's right. The 2020s, right? So a lot of times it's everybody's in their own world. And I honestly, whether I'm driving by myself or with the family, I've gotten used to, I just kind of focus on the drive and often don't listen to anything, just like let my mind do that.
Yeah.
And then, we're going somewhere beautiful. I still do that. Get off your screens and look at the beautiful mountains,
He will, though. He'll go 10 hours and just nothing. Yeah. Like I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm working on something, I'm watching a movie. Kids are just music, and he'll just be driving.
I'm napping, honestly.
It's a self-driving car, and
I'm not napping, but I will say, it feels very restful to not have to answer questions. And again, my kids are a great deal younger, but when they're all engaged in their own thing, I'm like, this is just 2 hours of not having to engage, not have to talk to them. And I love them very much, but sometimes I just don't want to talk to them anymore.
Enough with the questions.
Yeah. Oh,
fine. Why?
Yeah. Why?
Are you
But
at the
then why?
wise age now? I don't know how old your kids are.
8, 6, and 2. So we're in the heart of Y country.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
But it is funny. We sometimes though we listening to, we'll play like a audiobook of a story, and so it's almost like a fairy tale. And sometimes I had all 3 kids a few weeks ago, and I forgot that they'll say, "Hey, what just happened?" And I have to say, "Oh, I'm completely tuned everybody in the car out. I have no idea. I can go back, but I don't even know the context of what this
I
is."
think they might have just lived happily ever after, perhaps.
Yeah. Or eventually will.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
What was the longest road trip you guys did as a family?
Well, that was probably the
COVID.
great escape from New York. When COVID had really hit in earnest in the March of 2020. We were all here in New York, which, kind of felt like the scariest place on the planet to be.
100%.
And, we still had our house in LA, but it was Olivia's freshman year. She was in the dorm. Joe was in his, studio apartment that he'd just gotten. We were in our apartment several blocks away. And finally we just thought we got to get out of here.
It was also New York was going to shut down. That's what they were talking about. We're going to, we thought, oh my God, we can't be homebound.
Right.
We can't be.
The mayor said basically after tomorrow,
everything shut down.
You can't do anything that's not, go to the drugstore. So I
remember with their texts were going around from pretty reputable people I know in news saying they might close the bridges and tunnels.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
really.
So,
that was legitimate concern about, I got, we're in Manhattan in the West Village. I get on my bicycle right out to Queens and go buy a minivan, which we've been planning on buying a minivan anyway, because we didn't have a car in New York. And it's like, to get away on the weekends. Well, and I go, and it was like that scene from a movie that I never believe when you see, the guy. And then he goes to the car dealership and just goes, "Give me a car," and drives away.
Yeah.
But I literally, the poor salesman was like, "What, silver or blue?" And I was like, "I don't just what's this one you have?"
They
has,
say J.K. Simmons on a bike in Queens is one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Well, the 59th Street Bridge was it was the first time I'd done that. Yeah.
Did you bring the bike back in the van, or did
and
you?
Then, threw the bike in the back.
There you go.
And came back, and then I'll let my wife Michelle MacGyver did her thing,
because our son Joe, his roommate, was one of the first people to get COVID.
Oh, wow.
And he still, 4 years later, cannot taste or smell anything. A young man, what was he, 20 at the time? 19,
maybe
20.
Yeah.
And Joe, and they were living together in a studio apartment, a tiny studio apartment. So we didn't know, oh my God, because that was when all that was coming out. We were like, oh, what if Joe has what? So I took a, like a big movie poster, how it has the plastic, it's not glass cover. So I took one out. I put it in the back of the minivan. I taped it all. It was like Bubble Boy. It was like, that, remember the boy in the bubble? We put him in the back, and I taped up the hole, but I could put food down in it and close it up. When we'd stop for bathroom breaks, the minivan, the back would go up, and then he'd have to jump out the back, go to the bathroom, jump back in.
We'd all stay away from him.
But it was like, we don't know if he has COVID, if he doesn't have COVID, we don't know if they're going to shut the bridges down or not shut the bridges down. He drove nonstop. What was it? 36 hours?
35 hours.
35 hours.
35.
Stopped once. One hotel, right? From New York
we drove from
to LA.
We stopped in Albuquerque finally, and went to a hotel in Albuquerque that was it had 400 and some rooms in the hotel. 12 of them were occupied. Yeah. Because everybody was, that whole drive was like a post-apocalyptic. It was us and 18-wheelers on every highway we were on. It was bizarre, terrifying, but like sort of bonding and, weirdly fun also.
Hey, not to brag, but my in-laws were the 11th and 12th people in New Mexico to get COVID.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good for you.
You might have met them while you were out. Oh, you probably didn't. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, they're a pretty special bunch.
No, I'm sorry. So not top 10.
No, not top 10. I mean, obviously, we're pretty disappointed, but next pandemic, they learned a lot of lessons. When you guys, what about when you guys were kids? I mean, if you're in what is it, Grosse Pointe, Michigan? What were your trips, JK? Were you the kind of family that took
all the family trips? And yes, we were in Grosse Pointe. We were the slums of Grosse Pointe. Like my cousins here were in the slums of Scarsdale, where it's like it's a Scarsdale post office box, but they weren't living in the lap of luxury. I actually shared a room with my brother. I was talking about this recently. The first time I had my own room was the first time I moved. When I moved back home, when my family had moved to Montana, and I was 19 years old. The rest of my life that I remember, I was sharing a room with my little brother. So we would take vacations, which were always road trips. I wasn't on an airplane until I was 16 or 17 years old. And it was always driving to see one set of grandparents or the other.
And where were they, the grandparents?
When I was little, up until age 9, my mom's parents were with us in Detroit, Grosse Pointe. And then my dad's family, he was a farm boy from central Illinois. My mom had been born and raised in Chicago, south side of Chicago. So we would go do the long, oh my God, so long for my beleaguered parents, with 3 of us in the back seat, the road trip to Berwick, Illinois, and stay on the farm with the outhouse in the back and very, very old school. And then we would alternate that with, after we moved to Ohio, we would drive, 4 hours or so from Columbus and back up to Detroit to visit my mom's parents. And then we would sometimes come all the way out to New York and visit my 5 cousins and my mom's older brother who lived up in the burbs, and he was an ad executive at Gray Advertising here in New York.
Do you think it's easy for you to drive 35 hours nonstop because you're not going to a farm with an outhouse? That ultimately,
that's part of it.
You'll do whatever it takes.
Will be plumbing and heat. When you're
That I think is the other thing about being a dad and driving now is I know it's, no matter how bad it is, it's still better than how much I hated being in the backseat as a kid. I still know I have the catbirds.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And our dad our parents were, our father was a pacifist and actually served in the army, but as a conscientious objector, so he didn't have to shoot guns,
Oh, wow.
But, a very kind and gentle and peaceful soul. But the road trips, man, with 3 kids in the back would bring out that, you would see this, he'd be turn around and he'd let off the gas,
It's really funny that he managed to make it through armed service without cracking.
No, that was no problem compared to, 3 kids under the age.
Right, a road trip with 3 kids.
Was the farm a working farm, and would you be put to work when you went there on vacation?
No, I wasn't. We were never there during hay baling season,
Okay.
My cousins, God knows, did plenty of that. It was a working farm. My grandpa, my dad's dad, Guy Bolt.
Oh, great name.
He had a small herd of cattle. He had a small cornfield, adjacent to that pasture. And he was also, because the farm wasn't really big enough to sustain, my grandma had a giant vegetable garden where she grew everything, and they had chickens. And then he also was the mailman, the rural mailman, who I think by the time I was aware, he was driving one of those, Jeeps with the steering wheel on the right, like you're in the UK. But prior to that, he rode a horse and did the rounds of, dropping off the mail and occasionally Ma Kettle is in labor again. Go tell the doc. And he'd, get on his horse and let the doctor know because the party line was busy. So it was very old school at Grandma and Grandpa's farm.
great.
Yeah, I kind of want to, in my mind, I want a guy named Guy Bolt to have to get on a horse to deliver news.
My cool cousin Kenny was the one that called him Guy Bolt. He was the one that assigned, he and his dad my Uncle Dell were the ones that assigned all the nicknames.
Well, his real name was
really
Guy.
His real name was
real
Guy.
name was
yeah, Guy Simmons.
Yeah. And now we're going to take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. This episode of Family Trips is supported by the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. Hey, Pashi.
Yeah, Sufi.
From muddy jungle paths and snowy trails to rolling sand dunes, the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder has the capability to take you to some of the most epic destinations on Earth.
Oh man, we are excited to once again partner with Nissan because, as our listeners know, this podcast, Family Trips, is occasionally a podcast about trips and about the joy of having adventures and exploring new places, and making memories.
And if you're one of our listeners who doesn't know the podcast is called that, what is the holdup? There's no better vehicle for chasing bigger, better, more exciting adventures than the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. With 7 drive modes, the Pathfinder's available intelligent 4-wheel drive is built for even the most epic journeys.
This thing can tow. A Nissan Pathfinder can tow, Suf, so you can bring the fun with you.
Yeah. How many pounds would you say?
6,000.
Oh boy, that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun to tow. Nissan also knows it's not just about where you go in a Pathfinder. The real fun comes from getting there.
Ooh, now that is well said, Sufi.
Thank you.
Whether getting there is a new physical place or just the end of an amazing story told by one of our guests.
That's why we're excited to partner with Nissan to celebrate adventures everywhere.
So thanks again to Nissan for supporting Family Trips and for the reminder to chase bigger, better, more exciting adventures. And enjoy the ride along the way. Learn more at nissanusa.com.
Intelligent 4-wheel drive cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions. Towing capacity varies by configuration. See Nissan Towing Guide and Owner's Manual for additional information. Always secure cargo.
Here we go.
So you were where in California did you have your formative years, Michelle?
I grew up in San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah. And
another place that's a real good vacation destination. You guys sort of ended up in nice places.
Yeah, SeaWorld, the Wild Animal Park, the zoo. It's like
how often does a person who live in San Diego go to SeaWorld?
Not that often.
Yeah, I was wondering. If you go to like field trips or
Statue of Liberty, you know. No, actually, I, a couple of times. Went to the zoo a lot. We get year passes to go to the zoo a lot. But we didn't have a lot of money growing up, and we did have a small boat, and we would drive our station wagon to Lake Mead outside of Vegas. Do you know Lake Mead?
Yeah.
When it was a lake.
Hot desert, and you're pulling a boat with an old station wagon, so we couldn't have air conditioning.
And
so,
sorry to interject. 5 kids.
5 kids.
Okay.
There's 5. 7 crammed into, no seatbelts. I'm like laying on the ground. It was just, and couldn't use air conditioning because otherwise the car couldn't pull the boat in the back. Mm-hmm. So, and then we'd go to Lake Mead, and play in the water. And, only years later we found out that's where like they dump all the bodies and everything. So it was like, but that was it. That was our vacation.
You're really on a knife's edge when the tipping point of being able to pull the boat is the AC being on. Like I feel like, like that's real. I mean, that is
Death Valley, like, oh God, please, we would pray. Don't break down. Don't break down.
Yeah, you're really asking for it. Everywhere, that whole drive is like the worst place to break down.
It's horrible.
Oh,
the worst.
and like
5 kids.
A miracle that they didn't end up stranded on the side of the road, all passed out from heat.
Yeah. And then how long was that drive?
It's, with pulling a boat, it was like, 5-6 hours.
And then would you stay in a hotel?
We would stay at Circus because you could get like 2 rooms for $25 or something.
Gotcha.
And, it's filled with kids and families and then, some other types. Circus. I'm sure it's great now.
It's still Vegas.
Yeah. And guys who just got back from what they call the dumping in the lake.
When I read about that later as a grown up, I was like, oh my God. Like we would swim in that water and they,
Yeah. Don't people camp along the sides of Lake Mead as well? I feel like we have friends.
I think not back then.
Okay.
There weren't a lot of people there when we would go there.
Gotcha.
We're talking, this is decades ago, but there weren't a lot of people
And was
there.
that a speedboat? Was that like a motorboat that you had?
It was like a little speedboat. We'd go water skiing, but you could only pull
faster.
You could, because it was just an old, but it was
you couldn't have the AC on in the boat, or else you couldn't water ski.
No AC on the boat.
Wait, but so you keep saying small boat, but I'm imagining could fit 7, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
No. And my dad was short and really fat, I'm sorry, stout.
He
was stout.
Right. Yeah.
He had
gotcha.
huge stomach. He was like, and so him alone, and he wouldn't let anybody else drive the boat. So the boat would be a little bit like that, and you couldn't really it was so hard. I don't know if you go water skiing, but you need a little oomph to get up.
Yes, of course.
Right. So you'd be like, your skis would be. You'd be like halfway in the water, halfway out, because the boat just couldn't. And we were kids, but eventually you'd kind of get up. But
you're basically being dragged.
You're being dragged,
water.
basically.
And so
you're being dragged.
If you couldn't all fit in the boat, would the rest of you wait on the shore, wait for your turn, and then
you couldn't wait? Yeah, and then he'd do one, and one or two. The little ones, us younger ones, could go 2 at a time. But my older brother and sister, they'd have to wait, one at a time.
Wow.
But it was fun, it was fun. It was a family, it was a family.
And so that was a trip you would look forward to if we're going to take the boat out. Oh, that's great.
I did, yeah. Except the heat, going through that valley. Yeah, that was hard.
We're almost there.
It was so hard.
Oh, that's a
Well,
hot drive. They can get worse.
I finish it with this though. One time my sister said, Mom, I'm really thirsty. Can I have some water? And I don't know why. I don't know if we drank it all. I don't remember the story. I was young. But my mom goes like this. My mom holds up her hand and she pours pig water. She just mimes pouring a glass and she goes, here you go. And she gave it to her. It was like, actually, you know what? Maybe I need some therapy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really funny. If we had the extra weight of a liter of water in the car, we wouldn't be able to use the windshield wipers.
Windshield wipers? We didn't have those.
Right. I was going to say, you probably didn't need them in that valley.
When's it going to rain?
We weren't rich.
I love that she says, whenever she's telling old family stories, she consistently says my sister or my brother, and I'm like, you have 2 of each.
I do. I have 2
Who are you talking about?
There's one of each.
You should know from the intonation which one
that's
she's
true.
talking about.
Yeah. So sometimes it's clear. Yeah.
Oh, you can tell, especially between the sisters.
JK, when you went to go see these cousins in New York, would you stay out in the suburbs or would you ever go into the city?
I remember going into the city for the 1965 World's Fair. That was a big treat. I was 10 years old. Huge trip. And we went to Chinatown.
Uh-huh.
And I had saved up enough money. My parents had incentivized us to get spending money for the big trip to the World's Fair. We got paid for how many laps we could swim in the pool. We went to the public pool and, where we'd learned how to swim. And my sister and I, she's 2 years older. We had to swim lengths of the pool. And my brother, who was 6, had to swim, just widths of the pool. And that's how, whatever, 25 cents per, whatever lap. So I had enough money to buy a little mini wooden traveling chess set that closed up with little clasps in Chinatown, which was the highlight of my entire childhood to that point. And then I don't remember anything else about the World Fair. The train trip in, from Westchester down through, the Bronx and Harlem and Upper Manhattan and da-da-da. And then I assume the subway out to Queens. I don't even remember that. But oftentimes we would also incorporate with my 5 cousins, their family vacation out to Long Island, where the 11 of us, our parents would rent 2 little, cabins that were supposed to seat 4 people, or sleep 4 people, and we'd cram in and cuddle in and go, play in the surf on Long Island, which was a gigantic treat.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember the first time I went into New York City without my parents. And you'll be able to tell me, JK, actually exactly when this happened, maybe. But my friend and I went into New York City on our own. We were in high school. And we went to Broadway and we saw Laughter on, I don't remember the floor,
The 23rd floor.
24th floor. And you were in it. And at the time, I just remembered, I had remembered seeing you because then when I started seeing you and other things, I was like, wait, I think I saw.
1994.
1994. So there you go. Yep.
And that's actually another job that we, after the Broadway run, we did, there's usually the national tour after that. And that was another job that we did together. Michelle joined the cast for the audition for the wonderful Jerry Zaks and Neil and played the secretary.
Oh, wow.
That was 30 years ago.
That was 30 years ago.
There you go. So now you guys, real quick, I think for people, even I have a great curiosity about these touring productions. When you take a show on the road, how long are you in each successive stop?
Well, that varies a lot.
Yeah.
There's like the top tours, you're sitting for, months in only the big like LA, Chicago, and then the bus and truck tours. I mean, we've both done both, like the pretty high level tours and then the bus and truck tours, which is a contract writer with the Actors Equity, where you do split weeks, where you do, 3 shows in Frankfurt, Tennessee, and then 4 shows in Memphis. And you're literally on the bus on the Thursday, get to the theater, do the show that night kind of thing. So it's, but still at the time, I mean, for a theater actor, that's gold. I mean, you're getting paid, at least for me, a lot more than I was used to doing regional theater and things. And plus you get the per diem and and if you're shacking up with, Tiger Lily or what was it?
We never shacked up on the road.
No, we did on the Laughter tour. What was your? I mean, we were almost married then.
Yeah.
What was your character in Laughter?
Oh my God.
The secretary.
It was 30 years ago.
It was 30 years.
Between the two of us, we have the memory of
Right. We're one of those couples where when you bump into somebody and you go, Helen, yes, Helen was the character. You bump into somebody that you're supposed to know their name, like neither one of us, like,
oh, no help.
You look to your partner and go, help me out and
yeah.
No idea.
Yeah,
Does it, when you were going those tours, did you feel like you experienced the cities at all? Do you feel as though that was a good way to see the country, or were you so zeroed in on doing the shows that you would be in and out and never get the texture?
No, I mean, I felt like we got, because by that time you're doing 8 shows a week, which, kind of is a lot, but not really, because you're only doing 2 matinees usually. So, you have dinner after the show at 11 p.m. You sleep until God knows noon,
right?
And then you have the whole afternoon free. So yeah, we did a fair amount of, and especially on that Peter Pan tour, Michelle and her little group of lost boys and Kathy, who played Peter Pan, yeah, we did all kinds of, and I was a part of that group oftentimes where we'd go do all kinds of fun outings and really experience the city. And for me, that tour, I went to like 7 or 8 at least major league ballparks that I'd never been to.
That's great.
Anytime we had a Monday night off in Chicago, I was like, Wrigley one time and then Comiskey, the old Comiskey the next.
That was not a nice stadium, Comiskey.
But you were there. You saw it.
I'm glad I saw it, and there's some that you're sad they tore down, and there's some where you're like,
that one was that was
this
a good
is for the best.
Yeah.
So this is going somewhere, I promise. So I first saw you in that Neil Simon play, and then I think the next time I saw you was in Oz, and it really spoke to your range as the actor, because the first time I saw you was very light, and then the next time it was very dark. And talking to you, obviously you have this incredibly loving relationship. It is very sweet to see you together. And then Michelle, you just, so you directed this film that JK's in. You Can't Run Forever. And JK is just a terrible person.
Judging from the trailer, which is all I've seen.
Judging from the trailer alone, and I'm guessing there's not a twist here. JK is a real bad guy.
Just misunderstood. Unhappy.
No, but it must be such a funny moment when I don't know if it's funny for which one of you when you're like, JK, I have a part you're perfect for.
Well, I mean, it was because her previous film, I'm Not Here, she also wrote a part for me in which I did not speak a word the entire film. I was on camera.
Fantastic film, by the way.
Thank you.
I love that movie. And you, I mean, these are, again, these are very, I guess I don't know. Based on the movie, I would not have expected, but again, shame on me. Obviously, artists are able to be two different things, but you're drawn to a certain kind of work.
Well, I'm certainly drawn to whatever she's doing. And then the added benefit of You Can't Run Forever, that's coming soon to a theater near you, is that both of our kids were also, professionally involved in it as well. Olivia is in the film, and our son Joe, who recently graduated from NYU Steinhardt Music School, did the entire score.
Wow.
And depending on which trailer you saw, I don't know if you saw, there were two versions made.
Okay.
And one of them that has the singer in it, I don't know if you saw that one, that Olivia wrote that and sings that, and Joe produced that song.
Great.
So, yeah.
That's amazing.
So it's just really cool. It's so, I love working with people I love.
Mm-hmm.
I love working with my family and my friends. My brother Randall produced the movie 100% by himself. I mean, usually you see, associate producer, executive producer, line producers. We had none of that. We had, it's a tiny budget. Although it's all up on the screen. We use all the money, is on the screen. And my brother Randall, who's produced all of them, he did it entirely by himself, which I still don't know how he did it. I mean, we had helicopters, we had bears and a moose and a family of snakes on set, not intentionally. And he does. Right. I mean, it's
not part of the cast.
Not part of the
Free
cast.
Free moose.
We shot it in Western Montana.
I was going to say,
I
was going to say it was giving off some Montana vibes.
Now, Josh is of the Meyers brothers. Josh is the outdoorsy one, and I will say where this movie takes place looks very beautiful, but that is kind of how I perceive the outdoors, is that if you go there, at some point you're gonna get chased by a crazy person. And there's gonna be no cell service, and you're gonna twist an ankle.
Or a bear or a moose.
Or a meth lab squatter family in the middle of the woods.
Well, that was fun. That was a good day, yeah.
Oh, wow. You came across that while shooting?
I did. I was there with my my DP and my first AD pre-call time, because it was just crazy schedules and weird stuff happened as is happens on these things. So we were there pre-dawn, pre-shoot scouting, and we were walking deep. And there's a woman in a truck coming down, and she's like, "What are you doing on our land?" And I knew this whole acres and acres was this guy we know, and it was his land, and we were paying for it, and I was like, "Oh, well, we're here to shoot, and we actually have, I've got
shoot, not shoot."
No, not shoot a
movie. Yeah, meth labs tend to hear it the other way.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and I turn around, and her son comes up on a motorcycle and high on something. And he's like, "Are you talking to my mom? I'm going to shoot you. I'll kill you. And I'm like sitting there with my first AD, and I'm just like, we're good. We're good. I start backing up. I go back down. Fortunately, we had a couple of really great security guards.
Names. They were awesome.
They were so
as
good.
advertised.
I'm just impressed you remembered your grandfather was Guy. At this point.
No, he was a guy. He was just a guy, an old guy.
Now I'm starting to think it was.
The National Guard came in, right? The National Guard had to come in. We lost time. We lost shooting. The Rangers had to come in, and they had there was a homemade. I don't know how you do that in the middle of the woods.
Oh,
but,
you never do them homemade.
I get all my meth labs from Etsy.
Yeah.
The moose and the bear were nothing compared to.
Yeah.
Growing up in San Diego, did you ever go down to Mexico? Was that a draw?
All the time.
Yeah.
Tijuana, all the time.
Actually, in Chula Vista, which is
Chula Vista.
Throw a stone and you hit somebody in Mexico. Yeah.
You could just
not that they would do that.
Right. No, right.
There was no stone throwing.
Would you go down as a family, or would you go down with siblings, or was that something you'd do with friends on like an afternoon?
Yeah. Because you could, yes, you could drink down there when you were like 16 or something. Not that I did.
Yeah,
I did partake in that. Maybe my brother did once or twice.
Possibly.
And we take my grandma down there because just the shopping and the food, and it was so easy. And it wasn't crowded. The border, you could walk back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, I did that all the time as a kid.
Oh, fun.
My family, and it was cool. It was fun.
Yeah, I would think it would definitely be.
We would do the Canadian version of that across the Ambassador Bridge from Detroit to Windsor.
Oh yeah,
it was international travel. Go get some pancakes in Ontario.
Yeah,
it is fun. Years ago I did a show in Niagara, and I remember I'm gonna just walk to Canada. And then, you kind of get there, and you're like, all right, no, a little bit less.
You don't always put all the nice stuff just across the border.
Yeah,
I don't know that we do either, for the record.
Right? No,
yeah.
You want to keep it
Tijuana does though. Have you ever walked across?
I haven't. I've not been there.
I mean, I don't know now. This was a long time ago, but it was all right there.
Yeah,
it was all right. Yeah, it was easy,
fun.
All right, this is it's been very lovely talking to you, and we now are going to ask you the questions we ask all of our guests on family trips, and we invite you each to provide an answer for the questions that Josh will ask.
All right.
Okay.
Here we are. You can only pick one. Is your ideal vacation relaxing, adventurous, or educational?
I want to go with relaxing.
You can only pick one?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, adventurous.
What is your favorite means of transportation? Train, plane, automobile? Small boat.
I know JK's is bike to minivan.
Yes. Well, I mean, we like going to sort of interesting fun. We have another trip to Iceland coming up, so I'm a big fan of get on a plane and go somewhere really different.
Mm-hmm.
I love ships. I don't travel but I love ships. I took a world cruise last year, not with him, with another. With
another guy. With your boyfriend. Yeah.
It is a guy.
Yeah.
But he's a friend.
Yeah.
Right. You know what? Actually, now I would change my mind. Let's talk about the sex stuff. Let's talk about the sex stuff now.
No.
This is getting exciting.
No. You co-wrote I'm Not Here with me.
All right.
And we're writing another script. But a world cruise, I love a ship.
This one's a little trickier. If you could take a family vacation with any family, alive or dead, real or fictional, other than your own family, what family would you like to go on a vacation with?
Alive or dead, real or fictional?
I think I'd like to go with you guys and your parents.
It's a great call.
Wow.
You're not
I
wrong.
want to see what's going on there.
You're not wrong.
I mean, we're just going to play cards and not talk about the deep stuff. But
but it'll be
Ladies
fun.
Well,
I think a good 8-person crew, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
There
I'm
you
just
go.
saying she could teach you some more, some more hip games than hearts. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I would want to go with Atticus Finch and his family.
Excellent.
Good pick. All right, there you go.
This one could get a little dicey for you guys being together. If you had to be stranded on a desert island with one member of your family, who would it be?
Yeah. All right, good call. JK, arm around.
Well, the kids aren't here, so
Yeah.
I would say my brother Randall. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because he would find a way for us to get off the island.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a
Hands
smart pick.
Well, I think actually it would be MacGyver here, who
I know,
the
based on that.
instructor who would find a way off the island.
Where do you consider your hometowns then? San Diego for you, Michelle?
Hometown, San Diego.
Yeah. And JK, what's your hometown?
I have no
Detroit,
idea.
right?
I mean, depending on who I'm talking to, it's Detroit,
Okay.
it's Columbus, Ohio, or it's Missoula, Montana. And I mean, like when I'm in Montana, I feel at home in all of them, but I don't feel like any of them is. I mean, I feel like having 3 of them is a kind of a good news, bad news thing. But
Well, would you recommend your hometowns then? Detroit, Missoula, Columbus, or San Diego? Would you recommend those as a vacation destination?
100%. Yeah. I mean, like you said, San Diego has everything. Beautiful, perfect weather year round. You got the beach. You're not that far from even like the mountains and woods, and it has everything.
Yeah.
It's a great.
I would say most people in Montana, certainly my old friends who are back there, would ask me not to recommend Montana because Montana all wish they'd have put up a fence
Right.
50 years ago. And all the Californians would. There were bumper stickers when I was in college when Montana first started becoming kind of Peter Fonda bought a ranch, those kinds of things. There were bumper stickers that said, "Don't Californicate Montana."
Yeah.
And that's a prevailing attitude there.
Gotcha.
I feel like you can kind of tell whenever I talk to, people in show business who have places out there, like exactly when they made their first money. Because there was a time, like obviously there was a time in California where the word got out that it was like, that's where you want to. And
yeah. Well, at first it was just like the retired transpo guys.
They got there
the
first.
crew guys that would move up and they're not buying a 1,000-acre ranch up there.
Right.
They're like, but there's definitely a lot of Hollywood out there now.
That's great.
And then Seth has our final questions.
Have you guys been to the Grand Canyon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
I mean, if you're in Maine and you're getting in the minivan, I don't know if you want to
Right.
trip just for that. We were kind of. It was
how
on the
many?
way,
Okay. So it was on the way.
Yeah.
Well, no, I went there.
Oh, shit, yeah.
I was touring. I was touring at a show, and we were close, so I went. I mean, it's hard to get perspective, right? Like in a way, you go. I'm not big on helicopters; they scare me. But that's the way to see it, probably, or from a for perspective. Because when you're right up there, it's hard to get perspective. I mean, it was cool, but it's hard to really, really understand.
I'm going to put you guys down as 2 no's.
Okay. Thank you.
You guys are hedging this so hardcore. I'm like, just all right. So 2 no's.
It's the Grand Canyon. It's like
All right. Well, it's just been a delight to talk to both of you. Congratulations on the movie. You Can't Run Forever. The entire family. It's a family affair. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, how can you not go see this movie? And I hope to see you both in person again soon.
I hope so.
Thank
Thanks.
you so much.
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Well, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.